Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM, channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. Tonight, we're talking about something so many Black women are facing right now, the pivot. When the job disappears or the career you've built suddenly stands on shaky ground, how do you rewrite the playbook, rebuild, and reintroduce yourself to a world still filled with uncertainty? We're talking to PR experts who specialize in reinvention. We'll also talk with a businesswoman who knows all too well what it means to shift your strategy. They'll walk us through how to step back with confidence, clarity, and purpose. My guests tonight are Takira Winfield Dixon, founder of Unapologetic Communications, Natalie Wilson, founder of NWR Communications Group, and Carrie Daniel, owner of Good Shots Med Spa. Thank you all so much for joining the conversation. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
Sure thing. Let me start with you, Natalie. When you have a job that ends, particularly if you've had that job for a long time, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years even, what is the very first PR step that someone should take to protect or rebuild their professional image? Because image is one thing, but you still have to sell the image that you're recrafting.
That's a very good question, Harold. And so many people don't know what to do. You sometimes are forced to pivot, whether you have been laid off or you're just tired and you want to explore that second chapter in your life. So what we're finding is that most people that are pivoting don't even think about PR or brand strategy at all. And that's why Takira, Chanel, and Naya and I have created the PR pivot to help women across the DMV to figure out, how do I do that? How do I get visibility for my cause? How do I connect with the audience that need my services? So again, it's understanding your brand. Do you have the right colors? Do you have the right font? And understanding who your audience is. And then I'll kick it to Takira because she is a brand strategist, and this is what she does for her clients as well.
Yes, thank you, Natalie. I mean, I think it's so important to think about not just the brand, but the story, right? What is your story? What drives you? What's your passion? What gets you up at night, keeps you up at night? And how do we tell that story to connect with other people? Because I often tell folks that, we can talk and talk and talk. And if you try to talk to everybody, you'll end up sometimes talking to no one. And so how do we figure out how to get that clarity in your story to really drive that passion? What are you feeling, and how do you get to that place where people can connect with what you're saying and know that it's authentic? And so at Unapologetic Comms, we focus on the authentic storytelling for Black women visionaries. And how do we make sure that people are ready to hear the thing that Natalie and our colleagues are actually selling? So we are the what.
So Takira, you said something that struck me when you were talking about, Black women who are trying to examine how they are feeling, because PR is one thing, brand is another, your story is another. But I can only imagine that someone who has lost a job that they've had again for a decade or so has to really examine what that personal story is.
That's right. That's right. And it's scary. And I tell folks it's okay to lean into that vulnerability, to lean into that story, to understand that you're not alone in this, that there are so many other amazing, talented, brilliant Black women, that something has happened to you, that you are not the cause of what has happened in terms of your circumstances. And that story is so right. It's so right. You have to get it right, and it has to be real, and we have to be able to channel that vulnerability, but we need each other in order to do that. And so, we are the solutions we seek a lot of times. If we sit around, we wait for folks to come and save Black women, who's going to save us, who's going to save, we are it. we are enough. Our stories are enough. Our experiences are enough. And how do we start to tell those stories collectively, so that people understand we're building a movement of amazing, talented, smart, brilliant Black women who can do anything.
Mhm.
And so pivot is really your purpose. How do you find your purpose in that pivot?
Mhm.
And
I
can I
think it,
also just add really quickly,
sure.
the reason we created this campaign is because we kept hearing that 300,000 Black women lost their jobs and they're being forced to pivot. And we said, there are enough of us, Takara said this, there are enough of us who can jump in, lend our resources, our expertise to help these women, our family members, figure it out. And you have to know, as Takira said, your purpose. And you can't speak to everyone. You have to really narrow down your niche, right? And focus on that audience and figure out what expertise you have. What problem are you solving that can help your community or the world?
And I was about to say that, before the Black men who are listening get salty about this conversation and somebody says, well, what about us? Because Black men have also lost jobs during the course of the political winds that we've seen blowing. The reality is, particularly in the DMV, that the lion's share of people who have been affected by the layoffs and firings, the federal government layoffs and firings, have been Black women. So I don't want, the men who are listening to this conversation to feel slighted, because yes, we do know that they too, in some cases, are suffering. But again, the lion's share of those who have been impacted have been Black women, which is not to say that you too may get something out of this conversation, as well. I did want to ask you, Carrie, what has been your pivot? Because yes, you are a nurse practitioner by by your long-term career, but now that you are the the owner of of Good Shots med spa, but is that the pivot, or are you trying to do something else beyond where you are with Good Shots?
Well, my pivot was twofold.
Okay.
I am a veteran of the U.S. Army and a civil service worker. So my first major pivot was I felt that it was time for me to change. And I didn't know exactly what that looked like, but I had to remind myself that I was equipped and that everything I had learned and trained for was enough to make the pivot. So that was the first thing, to decide to branch out beyond government and military and get into entrepreneurship. The second pivot, which led me to Good Shots, was during the pandemic. I conceptualized a business that focused on travel medicine and keeping people healthy as they travel to different parts of the world with vaccines or medications. Then the pandemic began, stay-at-home orders came down, travel came to a complete halt. And so that totally tanked my business ideal. And so I had to pivot quickly because I was still determined to branch into entrepreneurship. I quickly pivoted to, what can I do to help in this situation? We hadn't had a vaccine yet. I thought about, let's focus on being the healthiest we can be. Let's focus on immune health. And what can I bring to my friends and my family, my neighbors in my immediate area to keep us as well as possible and have a chance at, making it through this really difficult time. Mm-hmm. So that was my second pivot. And that was where Good Shots was birthed and became a focus on wellness, health, and then did some morphosis into weight loss and aesthetics as well.
You seem to be a prolific pivoter. Not everyone necessarily has the skills or the kinds of ideas that you seem to have. I mean, Natalie, a lot of people are unlike Carrie. They're in a position where, what am I going to do now? They may feel lost. Where in Carrie's case, she said, well, this is where I am. Let's get it moving. And she seems to have been successful in the pivot, but not everybody can.
Well, I think everyone has an expertise that they or passion or purpose that they can tap into. You do not have to, create a business like Good Shots, but you can do something. Maybe you want to be a publicist, or you want to, be a teacher. You can do something. We all have a passion. And I think, from hearing from a lot of women, is you have to be brave enough to step out and do it. Will there be failures? Absolutely. But you will learn from those failures. And the world needs to hear what you have to say and what you're offering. And if you continue to just shy away from it, it's just so disheartening, for the community that needs it. As you know, Harold, I'm the co-founder of the Black and Missing Foundation. That was tough to create that nonprofit, right? But I know that my expertise is media relations. And we started from the very bottom, and we continue to do the work and pour ourselves into it. And I think that's what a lot of, our community, our women and men, as you said, need to know, that you have what it takes. And we are here to support you. And we're here to help you get visibility again, so that you can connect with your audience and the people that need to hear what you have to say and provide, the services that you're providing.
Takira, if you don't mind, share some more detail about the pivot for those who are listening, who may want to, number one, access the services, and who may be wholly unfamiliar with this process. What do you tell them about? This is what you're offering. This is what you can do, etc.
Sure. I mean, one thing we're offering is that story, right? To help them navigate, what is that personal story? What's your founding story? Even if you don't have an entity yet, if you want to start an entity, what does that look like? What drives you? And then we're offering sort of the audit strategy, right? So we'll look through, what do you have already? What do you come to the table with? And how can we take some of those assets and turn them into something that would be valuable to you, or that you would see as a potential career pivot or a shift? And then we're offering the visibility. And so coming together with my publicist colleagues to be able to offer platforms for wonderful people like Carrie to tell their story, to have a voice, to be able to channel that voice, to, even if you have never done media before, if you say, look, I have a story to tell, I have a testimony to tell, then we are allowing our folks in this program to be able to share that story. Because I also think that there is so much power in not just the vulnerability, but in the failure. In the, there's this myth around pivoting and entrepreneurship, and we see this across social media and other platforms where we think it's a solo sport, or, we see all the glitz and the glam, but what we don't see are the failures and the missteps and the coaching and the guidance and all of that happens with everybody at some point who is successful. And I think that we have to start to normalize peeling back those layers to help people understand it is not just all sunshine and roses and rainbows, and we go through ups and downs. And, there are times when there's pennies in the bank and you don't know what's next, and you have to figure out how to overcome those things. And it takes a network. And to your point on Black men, look, they're part of that network, right? My husband was my first investor in my company, right? Like, my company is dedicated for Black women. But it takes all of us, right? My brothers showed up for me, my family showed up for me, and that's what it takes. And I think we don't peel back those layers enough. And we should start to, I think the part of the beauty in the pivot is showing the beauty in the pivot, right? Like allowing people to see that vulnerability, and that we can do anything together.
Real quick before I go to a break, how can people find out more about the pivot? Because I understand that right now this opportunity is free of charge. So where do they go? Is there a website?
So they can go to any one of our social media platforms, whether it's NWR Communications or to Unapologetic Communications. We all collaborate. So going to any one of those Instagram sites, you can get more information about the PR pivot.
Okay, and I'll make sure that I post those social media connections on our website on WHUR.com, as we do for the Daily Drum every evening after 7 o'clock. I'm going to take a break. Much more about the pivot for Black women in just a bit. But don't forget, you can hear this in every edition of the Daily Drum Insight segment via podcast on WHUR.com. The original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR-FM. This conversation continues on Sirius XM channel 141 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation about the pivot, what Black women have to do after sudden, unexpected job loss. My guests are Takira Winfield Dixon with Unapologetic Communications. She is the founder. Natalie Wilson, founder of NWR Communications Group, and Carrie Daniel, owner of Good Shots Med Spa. I want to ask you, Carrie, about your trajectory, because I think I want to take a much deeper dive. I am quite sure that it was not, as they say, a crystal stair when you were making these pivots from military service to where you are now. What was the biggest difficulty for you? Was there a failure that you had to confront?
It's a good question. There were some difficulties for me initially. As a nurse, that's my profession, service member, but business was new for me. And I had to get a coach, and I got a coach early on, to help me fill in the parts that I just didn't know. So that changed the trajectory, and I credit the success, to my business coach initially. I'm not done with Good Shots. I'm really just getting started. And this opportunity has come at a time that couldn't be more perfect. I am looking to move Good Shots to a larger, more functional workspace where I can expand services, and that will allow me to reach more people in Prince George's County. And that's going to be wonderful for business. But I can reach more, I can help more, and that's my goal.
Mm-hmm. Why not remain in the nursing field? There has been a nursing shortage for many, many years. Why pivot out of that?
The nursing field can be tough. It can be physically taxing. And as a veteran with some disabilities, it became a little bit hard to endure those 12-hour shifts that weren't always just 12 hours. They could end up being 14, 15 hours. So I needed to transition to something that was a little more realistic just for, my own physical condition. So becoming a nurse practitioner typically puts you into a more of a primary care setting. And I did that for a small period of time. And then really, I just kept leaning towards entrepreneurship. So I still feel that I'm nursing in a way because I'm able to educate my patients, my clients, and prescribe them treatment plans for whatever their goals may be.
Mm-hmm. Natalie, I want to ask about something even more foundational. For anyone who has had a long career and then suddenly lose their job, I guess there's, metaphorically speaking, it's almost like, a relationship that suddenly breaks up, and it's one thing if you're in this relationship with your job and your employer is saying you're doing a great job, and other possible employers are always still coming at you, wanting to hire you away, but then you lose your job and you can't seem to find another job, a lot of people would say, well, gosh, I've been doing a great job all of this time. Now, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't anyone want me? Talk to me about the emotional pressure of feeling that and not being able to really have an understanding of how you're going to get back on your feet or where are you going to go.
Right. I and we completely understand. If you've been at a job for any length of time, you are tied to that job. And many times, you see your position in life tied to a title, or it's tied to the work that you do. And you're thinking, oh my God, they can't do without me. And then you're let go and you're devastated. But this is an opportunity to create that new chapter in your life. You have to bet on yourself. And will you fail? Probably, but you have to get up and keep betting on yourselves. You need to feed your family. We all have mortgages to pay and kids in school. So you can't just sit back and put your career or your life in someone else's hands. So again, it's finding your passion, finding something to do that will give you joy. And at some point you have to move on. And is it devastating? Absolutely. And you have the right to be angry that you have poured into this organization for 30 plus years of your life, and then they just discarded you. We get it, but you cannot sit still in that space. You have to get up and fight for yourself, your life, and your career. We only have one life, and you need to live it the best way that you can.
Amen. Amen.
Takira, go ahead. If you were going to say something, go ahead.
Echoing Natalie's brilliance here is, your job does not define you. And I think what we have to do in the pivot process is actually unlearn some of the toxicity that we have learned in some of these workplaces, particularly as Black women, right, who have time and time again faced all kinds, right, of bias and racism and all kinds of things in these places that we have dedicated our lives to or given so much of our time with. But I think when you begin to separate who you are from what you do, there is purpose in that work as well. And so some of what we're doing is also helping people to understand that space in the interim, that transition space in the interim, is not a negative thing at all. It's actually a positive thing to figure out who you are, even outside of that title, outside of who, others may perceive you as, and what is the thing that you really want to do. And, we specialize a lot in what I say is unboxing Black women, right? Of like, people like to put us in a box and say, you're this or you're that. And we say, actually, we're all of that and more. And it's okay to be all of that and more. And how do we make sure that people understand that there isn't a box that you can put us in? And if you want to go write a book, let's figure that out. If you want to go, transition and start your own entity, let's figure that out. If you want to start a nonprofit, let's figure that out. And ownership is key. Like one of the other things that we push all the time, through our work every day, but also in this program specifically, is ownership. And I will give kudos to Carrie here, because Carrie has done a beautiful job of owning her brand. People think I have a social media page, I have a website, I'm good, I'm out, I'm in the public. And Carrie has gone and trademarked, right, Good Shot. She's gone and done the work. And I think a lot of what we don't do, particularly in the Black community, is push this sort of larger narrative around the ownership pieces as well. It really matters for us to have a piece of the pie, and to own something that is ours, that can be passed down and around and across, right, for generations to come.
What do you tell people, Takira, who may be concerned about rebranding that would put them in a space where they may be pretending to be someone that they are not. I mean, it's easy for us who are in media to understand the reinvention. But if you've never been an entrepreneur before, there may be a line that a lot of people are afraid to cross because you've always worked for someone else and you were happy with that. And now you're going to become what some may define as, now you're the big I am. You're getting new on, I mean, come on now. you know how our folks can be. And so how, what do you tell women who are concerned about being something, a whole different person that they are unfamiliar with?
Yes. I mean, one is that story matters. So getting that story right up front, and it's your story, you own it. And so it has to be authentic. And so I think a lot of times we need to give audiences credit and people in general credit. They will know when you were using a talking point, or you're saying something that is disingenuous. We should give people more credit that they are smart, and people will make those connections. And if you are being real and vulnerable with your story, even sharing that story of why you pivoted, right? This happened to me, and so I decided to do this. I think you have to connect those dots in that narrative arc so people will come with you on that journey, right? So it doesn't look like one day I'm this and tomorrow I'm that. You have to bring people with you as you are going through that transition, and your people will find you. I tell folks that all the time. Your people will find you through the noise, through all of the negativity, through whatever else you may be concerned about. There will be someone out there who will be moved by your story when you tell it. And when you are real in telling that story and vulnerable in telling that story, people will come and understand that. And the folks who don't aren't your people.
Okay.
Can I just add, Harold, really quickly? Sometimes we have to do it afraid. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to fake it until you make it. The point is, make it. Get to the outcome that you want to have. And we spend so much time worried about what other people have to say, and people are giving constructive criticism that haven't constructed anything. Do your thing. And I've said it a million times already. If you fail, it's okay. Being a publicist, sometimes I have to talk to Harold Fisher, and there are days when he's nice and kind to me, and there are days where his questions make me terrified. But guess what? I show up every single time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, because,
that's my job.
Because I'm not going anywhere. But
right. And you just get prepared. You're prepared as much as possible for the questions Harold or anyone may have, or your audience, your customer. But you just have to show up, and again, do it afraid if you have to, but just do it.
Yes.
And it's okay.
It's okay to say I need help as well, right? It's okay to say I don't know this, or I'm looking for my network of support as well. So yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Carrie. You were about to share something.
Yeah, I quickly also connected with peers, other nurse practitioners that were in business. That was a good support group. And what I learned, like Natalie was explaining, is sort of what we call an imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. And you've got to work through that. And being in that group with other entrepreneurs doing the same thing I was doing, it just really helped you navigate that space until you become more comfortable. And I think I've moved out of that imposter syndrome feeling that I had the first couple of years, and can now focus on growth and spreading and reaching the goals I want to reach.
What was that like? And how did you know when you were leaving the so-called imposter syndrome behind?
I think initially I felt it because I maybe was reluctant to talk about what I did, because I was still working through, I really did leave government service to do this, and it's not quite where I want it to be yet. So you feel a little bit like an imposter. But I started to feel, as I got new clientele, and really started to realize that they trusted me, they connected with me. And the biggest thing is when they share me with others that they know and trust and love. I really felt like then I was doing something right. And I think that helped move me out of that imposter syndrome.
Natalie, do you have don'ts for people who are just starting to pivot or starting to consider pivoting? I'm sure you have a handful of things that you would definitely say, please do not do this or these
The
things.
first one is, as Carrie said, don't do it alone, right? Find your niche, find your network that can support you, that can help build you up and keep you going. And don't not tap into, if that makes sense, PR. Most people and most businesses, what I'm finding is they don't even think about PR at all. So how do you connect with your audience, right? How do you get the services to your community? So, and those are the two biggest ones that I have. And I just want to tap into, a question that you asked earlier. That's the reason we created the PR Pivot, because we're doing a brand audit. We're doing an assessment of your website, the information, your messaging. We're creating custom pitches that you can send to media outlets. We're creating a one-page media sheet for you. We're, coaching you on talking to the media. So there's so many things, that's needed when you create or when you're doing these pivots, and you can't do it alone.
Yeah. Have you had chance to meet somebody for the first time and try to do that audit and say, "Ooh, you got a lot of work to do"?
Well, the brand specialist is Takira, and
Okay.
she is reviewing, a lot of the applicants and what she's seeing. So, Takira, what are you seeing?
Yes. I mean, I think people come to us at different points and different stages. And I think the key for us is actually to meet folks where they are, because we also believe that there's something good in everything that people sort of submit. And we have to, even if we have to kind of help you refine it and get it to a place, where it's good. But we've had people come to us and be like, whoa, I didn't know I needed to go trademark. It's like, yes, you got to go own that, right? You got to go own your brand, own your innovation, your idea. And so a lot of it, I don't think is like sharing sort of the negative pieces of people not being ready. It's more about how do we get them right to be ready and stay ready and feel confident in their pivot and in their journey. And so a lot of what we're doing is actually leaning in to meet people where they are and then bringing them to a place where they feel comfortable and confident.
Well, Takira, I would also imagine the flip side of that is that you may meet someone, do this brand audit or evaluation, and discover something that was very apparent to you that is marketable, sellable, that they did not see.
Oh, yes, that happens quite a bit. There are quite a few folks who I think are under considering their dreams. And, we're finding that in the pile to say, hey, look, we think you have something here and you should go pursue it. And not only pursue it, but we'll help you pursue that, right? We know the lawyer who can help you file for that trademark. We know the person who can help you design that website. We know these people. So it's not just talking, it's about actually leaning in and doing and supporting for where folks are. But absolutely, I mean, we found so many wonderful, beautiful gems that people, I think, don't know that they have, particularly in this group of amazing, talented Black women. Like I tell Black women, there's nothing that we can't do, and that we are so brilliant, and we don't need to be changed. We need to be channeled, right? And that's sort of the motto of Unapologetic Comms, is we tell people, we're not here to change you. I'm not going to hand you a thing of talking points and say, go out in the world. I'm going to say, what's your story? And that's your individual story. And how do we channel that to the world? And that strategy is so different. I think so different than what so many of us are used to, having come from those 9-to-5s or those traditional spaces, that people aren't really focused on us as individuals as much as they are goals and outcomes. right? And so we're like, where's the strategy to actually show you that we believe there's something in you that should be shared with the world, and that you can have impact with.
Carrie, Takira said earlier in the conversation that her husband was the first investor, but a lot of people may not have that kind of support. And so, as we continue to get in your business, about your business, what did you do about financing Good Shots?
Good question. How I finance Good Shots. I was my own first investor. I started out honestly with a neighbor and coworkers. And I was able to purchase enough product and supplies, from my own funds. And I just kept reinvesting anything that I made back into the business. And I did that, probably a good year and a half, maybe 2 years, and before I could even pay myself anything. So I became my first investor. And then I believe that once people saw what I was doing and where I was going with the business, then it became a little easier to get some more assistance.
Because Natalie, short of having a supportive spouse, or in Carrie's example, having those angel investors, so to speak, who are contributing a few dollars here or more than a few dollars, what do you tell women when you realize that their idea, good as it may be, is going to require capital?
Well, Harold, we can also tap into our network, right? You may have someone in your network that's a great speaker or writer. They can be your publicist, right? You have someone that's good with accounting or maybe a bookkeeper. They can be your accountant. So don't look outside of your network, and it may not be monetary, but they can help you build your business. And again, it's tapping into your network and just looking at everyone else who has a skill set and how that skill set can align in helping you build your business. And you can bring everyone along. And something we mentioned earlier, we need to stop working in silos. And
what do you mean by that?
It's my business, and I don't want anyone to really know what I'm doing, because you don't know what you're doing. So you may be afraid or ashamed to ask for help. Ask for help. That's the only way that you can break through, again, to get to the outcome that you want or you're expecting. So you cannot do this work by yourself. We cannot do this work by ourselves. And that's why we created this group of wonderful publicists and brand strategists to help our community.
I have a few minutes left, and I was hoping to get a final word from each of you. Carrie, I'll start with you. When you look at this station in life and the pivots, plural, that you've been able to make, what is a final thought from you?
A final thought is, again, I still have a lot more that I want to accomplish. I'm grateful for the PR pivot opportunity, because that's going to help get me there. It's the perfect timing. I want to expand, reach more people, help more. And this is going to be the way I get there. And I just think our community deserves it. So I'm ready. I'm ready to help more. We've got more appointments coming, more space to work out of, more nurses. So we're getting ready.
Takira, your final thoughts as well.
Sure. I mean, I think, our authenticity is greater than any algorithm, right? Or any box that anybody may put us in. And so we have to trust in that authenticity and trust in that story, trust in that dream. It takes a dream to build a dream. And I also think that, our stories live beyond our struggles. And so if we can learn that on the other side of our struggles is brilliance, right, is purpose, is the pivot, then I think that we are all collectively better. As a community, right, as a world, as if we can see that there is beauty in that pivot, in that purpose, then I think we are all collectively contributing to the greater good.
Yeah, and I guess in one sense or another, it can, if you are successful, you will find a new life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Natalie, I'll end where we began. Your final thoughts about this process for Black women who are worried, struggling, who are still looking back instead of having to deal with where they are or the career that they had that they've unfortunately, sadly lost.
Right. I simply want to say to our Black women out there, you are so much stronger than you think. And it takes a village that can come together to help you get where you need to be. So get up. I know it's hard. I know that you're struggling, but you cannot stay in that space. And we have created this PR pivot. We're not charging anything at all. We want to help you get to where you need to be. So get up. It's time to get up and get going. And again, to bet on you.
I think that's a great place to end this conversation. And I wish you all, the biggest success, and particularly, Carrie, as you begin to see your business blossom. Well, you can use that word, wisdom. You could. I'll share the trade. I'll share the trademark. Business blossoming wisdom. There you go. Oh boy. Anyway, good luck to you, Carrie.
Thank you so much.
But Harold, can I just add one more thing for Carrie?
Real quick, please go right ahead.
She's talking about living healthy. I mean, as we go into the new year, this is an opportunity for her to talk to people about, losing weight, eating healthier. So this is her prime time.
It is. It is. If I just can say a few words about that, it's never a bad idea to, bet on your health, your wellness. And this is a perfect time we start thinking about goals. And a lot of that includes some degree of weight loss for most of us. But the thing about that is not only will you look good, you'll feel better, but you're really doing your body, just a great thing by preventing chronic conditions. And there's that you can't put a price on that.
Yeah. With that, again, wisdom from Carrie Daniel. There we go. Ladies, thank you so much. And happy holidays to you, healthy holidays. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harold.
You're welcome. That is the Daily Drum for this Monday, December 8th. I'm Harold Fisher. Good night.